so I think having conversations around loving yourself is really, really important because, you have to if you ever want to be able to love outside of yourself.
So it's like taking like little snippets of my negative self-talk and rewording it into like something more positive. Like whatever negative self-talk you have, like catching yourself in that moment and then just switching a word. Like whether it could be so simple, but just like switching a word and just finding out why this is happening, and just like not being so negative about it. This is Skin Talks, the podcast where we go deeper than skin, products, and trends and explore the conversations that actually matter in health, beauty, wellness, and confidence.
We're a mother-daughter duo and the founders of Boutique Skin Envie. After years inside the industry, we've learned that health is never just about what you use. It's about everything you digest, how you think, how you live, what you eat, how you move, what you put on your skin, and how you feel in your own body.
If you're looking for insight, honesty, and a fresh perspective on the future of health, beauty, and wellness, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Skin Talks podcast by Boutique Skin Envie, hosted by Beate and Natascha.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking, it's February, and we're pre-recording this because I'll be unavailable.
Why is that?
As I'm going to be having a baby. But we're just going to be launched in February. So this is our February solo, and really it's the month of, without it being too cringy, of like self-love and Valentine's Day, but we kind of steer away from that a little bit. And we're trying to not talk about the cringy part of self-love and all this stuff, but it is a conversation that is relevant. And I think that we should talk about it. Because, it's hard to have a healthy relationship with yourself all the time, So I know that we have experience everybody has their own experiences in, negative self-talk and not loving yourself and having negative relationships with yourself. But I think that opening the conversation and talking about our experiences and what we've done to move forward and help ourselves is relevant and important. Maybe can help somebody,
Yeah. I think in today's world, even more, there's more and more light being shed on how we think and how we ruminate with repetitive thoughts over and over and over again until we kind of make ourselves believe our own thoughts by always thinking things consistently. And waking up in the middle of the night, you have a thought and you keep on going and going and going and
spiraling.
And I think the human brain has a tendency to focus negative rather than focusing on positive. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking about stuff, are you thinking about all the good things in your life, or are you thinking about the things that you're worried about?
I don't usually think.
Okay.
In the middle of the night.
Well, when I wake up in the middle of the night, it's usually it's not ruminating on the things that I'm feeling so good about. It's the things that I'm worried about, that I forgot to do, that I need to do, so I think we have a tendency to...
Those are things that are haunting you in a way. That's probably why you're waking up. It's because you forgot to do something, or it's something negatively affected you.
Something you said the night before that maybe you thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. And maybe the people that I was with misunderstood my intention. Those are the times in the middle of the night when we have those thoughts, right? And so there's more light being shed on that, I think, all over the world, specifically in North America. If you listen to Jay Shetty podcast, Mel Robbins, you listen to, all of the, Oprah Winfrey, the Goop podcast with Gwyneth Paltrow, I think a lot of people are really focused on self-love, helping oneself, and living a more fulfilled and healthy life, not just in terms of what we eat and put on our bodies, but how we are inside our bodies. I think it's a big thing right now. So yes. It seems
it kind of it spiked right after COVID too, when the self-help era.
Well, I think
it's been around forever.
Podcasting really, I've been listening to podcasts for years, but I almost feel like podcasts are starting to replace traditional forms of media. For example, newspapers. We read the newspaper, but the newspaper is always reporting an angle from a certain person, but you can listen to so many different podcasts about a subject and you will get a completely different impression than if you just read the morning news. When you hear somebody talking about something, rather. So just media in
It's long
general, I think,
form.
is shifting,
Yeah.
and people want to, I think there's a curiosity, which I love, because I think being curious is one of the most important things in life, not just living your life in a box, but asking questions about everything, even what you hear and even what you're told, you hear, you listen to. Well, it's the same thing as hearing, but watch, whatever it is, like just questioning it. It doesn't mean that just because somebody said something that is actually the truth. Even in news, you listen to a news channel and they're telling you a story about what happened in, you know, the Ukraine, for example. Well, is it actually the truth? Like, we will never know. So I think it's really important to be curious and keep digging about stuff.
But yeah, going back to self-love, what are some things that you've done in your life that you practice self-love, like let's say on the daily, to avoid those negative conversations with yourself or to really improve your relationship with yourself?
Well, I mean, I'm in my mid 50s, so I will say that the first 50 years of my life were basically, I look back at it, and although I didn't, I liked my life, I enjoyed my life, I look back at it now from where I am now, and I really think that my first 50 years were absolutely disastrous, in terms of, so like I said, so
I think in terms of you like being present and like self-aware was like not super.
no.
There was none of that.
No, I mean, I always knew that I had it because I was always curious about things like meditation and yoga and mindfulness, and I always liked Buddhism, and I was always very attracted by that kind of life and kindness. But I will say that in terms of me as a human being navigating through my life, as for the first 50 years, I was really chasing what I thought was the right way to live based on upbringing, based on your surrounding, who you surround yourself with, and also upbringing was a very big dominating force. And I didn't necessarily have the best relationships with certain people in my family that I aligned with, but I still looked for the approval. I still looked to be able to do things in my life that would get the approval. And what I realized at 50 is that, I'll never get approval. And I actually don't need the approval. But from that shift, from that moment of my life where everything changed to where I am today, I can tell you that I did so much.
Yeah, it's like not an
heal.
overnight
No.
healing process. It's
No, it was probably, I would say, 5 going on 6 years of consistent effort. Consistent effort in many different ways to get where I am today. And I know that where I am today in my mid 50s, I'm just a part of the way to where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Because, I think
You're always a constant work.
Yeah. Work in progress.
A work in
right?
progress,
But I
yeah.
will say that things like self-love, self-respect, self-acknowledgement were not even in my parameters about myself. Having said that, very different where it was applying to other people, right? Like, I would never have wanted you as my daughter to have the same feelings about yourself that I had about myself growing up. And my feelings around myself growing up were not good. Not at all. So yeah. So if you're curious to know the kinds of things that I did, I think that I did everything from very, very traditional, let's say, Western style therapies, which would include like, traditional psychologist, psychiatrist. I went to see a psychiatrist once or twice, but, I really loved working with a psychologist, but I found that the psychologist was coming to me from a very scientific perspective, which is really based on what that person learned in school and how the brain functions.
Yeah.
And, justifying almost the reactions that I was having to certain things just by that's the way the human brain operates and understanding it better. But the way more profound things that I did were more other non-Western traditional ways. So things like, going to see a shaman many, many, many times. And working through that, I worked with a gentleman named Bhaskar Goswami.
We've had on the podcast.
We've had him on the podcast. I know him also personally. He's a really amazing person. He's got a he's got a company. He's a radical transformation therapist. I worked with him every week for 3 months. Every week we had a 90-minute sometimes even up to 2 hour session, and really trying to like radically transform the way my belief systems around myself, what I thought I was capable of and not capable of. I did something called RTT therapy, radical transformation therapy,
Which I
which
think
is
we've
like a
actually,
we had her on the podcast. We had her on the podcast. Now I'm trying to remember.
McGinnis. Her,
Maria McGinnis.
yeah.
Very interesting. But it's a tribe. It's basically a way to transform the way you think. And there's hypnotherapy used in it, but also repetitive messaging that you listen to every day at home.
Yeah, my friend does it and she says it's amazing.
It's really good. And you know, so that I did, I went to Bali for a month. I did tons and tons of sound therapy and breathwork therapy, I think sometimes twice a day. I did yoni healing therapy. I did, I did a lot of stuff, and I've consistently done it. And also reading books, listening to podcasts. Journaling was a big thing that I introduced just over a year ago. I've restarted doing it again, and just really focusing on gratitude, and gratitude, like feeling the gratitude, listening to podcasts about what that means to be grateful, and really practicing it. Meditation, yoga, movement, spinning, working out at the gym. I think that's all part of therapy
Yeah.
and self-love, just coming from different angles. And then of course, you know, food, what we digest. So, because I think life is about digesting everything around us, who we surround ourselves with, you know, conversations that we have, our friendships, our family friendships, our work colleagues, all of those things. We're digesting that, and just creating an environment of positivity around you is really important, because we are what we think, what we eat, what we see, what we feel, what we digest. We become that, right? And if you're in a toxic environment that's not good for promoting self love and kindness to oneself, it's a slippery slope, because you can get really fast into this vortex that takes you into areas where you start to doubt yourself, and where you start to
Spiraling.
It's very easy to spiral and be triggered, you know, and, you know, be also understanding that when you are getting triggered, because I got triggered yesterday, massively triggered. And I'm like, why are you getting so triggered? But it's easy to go back there. But the thing is to be conscious of the trigger.
Why'd you get triggered?
Well, I'm not going to go into that, but I got triggered. It took me until this morning.
Was it professional or personal?
No, personal. I got personally triggered. Yeah. So all the work that I've done,
I need to know.
well, I can tell you after, but all the work that I've done to get to where I am today, which is really just at the beginning, is can easily get snapped back but the difference is
You're aware of it now.
Yeah, you don't stay there.
But you're also able to identify it.
You don't stay there because you can see it.
Yeah.
Like I can say, okay, Beate, you're being triggered right now, and why are you being triggered? And also to be able to
Get out of it.
articulate the reason for the trigger, to understand where it's coming from. It helps you to recover more quickly, you know? And so, yeah, it's an interesting journey that we live every single day of our lives. And it's up to us really to invest in ourselves on an internal level and question things. And
There's a lot of information out there.
There's a lot.
It can be overwhelming,
you know,
for sure.
and not to be so influenced, if possible, to step away from all the things that you compare yourself to. Like, you know, you can be feeling great one day, and then you go out for dinner with a bunch of friends, and you listen to this vacation that your girlfriend went on with her love of her life. And, you know, she just put up these beautiful pictures on Instagram of her and like living the dream. And then you vortex back to your own life and think, I'm not in love. I don't have anybody in my life. I haven't been on vacation. So I think we do that naturally as people. We compare ourselves to other people, and it inflicts this self-doubt that we have. Well, we're not good enough for that. And why don't we have that life? And, you know, all this stuff that we go through. So what I'm curious about, though, is that I talk about from my perspective. I'm your mom, so it's easy for me to talk about my journey, because, I mean, I think my journey was like a very intense journey, even though comparatively to other people, it's nothing.
Yeah, like your mom, my grandmother always says, if you throw all of your problems into a bucket, you'd want to pull yours back out.
100%.
You'd want to pick your same thing. Yeah.
100%.
But that doesn't not validate your problems that you've gone through.
I had a roof over my head. I never, I had people who loved me. I was putting food in my belly. Doesn't take away the fact that there's a lot of silent suffering. And while people might have looked at me my whole life and said, "Oh, Beate, she's got it all together. She's got her act together. Look at her. Like, she's running a business." She's like, silent suffering was probably close to my middle name.
Yeah.
Most of my life.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Like,
I'm curious about you because you're a different generation. And
I mean, I don't know. I think I have a pretty good, definitely compared myself a lot to people when you're younger. I think that's kind of normal.
It's normal, yeah.
Growing up as a teenager, like any other teenager, you have always these insecurities, which is so normal. Like, I can't say that I've gone through anything that's significantly insane, but I'm lucky that I can say that also. But
yeah, but okay.
I have a pretty good, I have a, like, my biggest thing was probably comparing myself to other people, or no, actually, I'm gonna take that back. Probably my biggest thing is caring too much about what other people think about me.
Yeah, which is normal, I think.
Which is normal. And that's something that I don't care about as much anymore. But I think growing up, that was like my biggest thing is like, what is that person going to think if I do this, or and I think that stumped a lot of my potential, like when I was younger, or like growth, or like whatever with confidence. Whereas now I'm 31 and I'm completely different. But I think that I have a pretty good ability to block out like negativity, and I protect my peace a lot.
So when you say block out,
like,
for
I just
me,
don't.
You don't let it into your body. So how do you do that?
I just I pay no attention to it.
So if somebody comes at you passive aggressively,
that takes practice. That takes I think now going through so much of allowing negative energy into my body, where I'm like spiraling at home in the shower and all I'm thinking about is the same thing. And I'm like spiral. And then I'm like blowing things out of proportion. I'm only able to not do that now because I've gone through it. You know what I mean? And now
but what did you do to get there? Because I think that, how did you block that out? How did you not allow that to come into your energy?
I think I just made a decision. Like, I was just like, this is like negative and useless and I don't need this in my life. And I just kind of like had a conversation with myself, and I was like, I'm just not going to allow people's opinions and thoughts that are not beneficial to me to enter my vortex and energy.
Well,
I just made the decision.
Skill though, for 31 years old. I mean, I can say that it's taken me a lot longer to get there than you.
Yeah, and my therapist always told me that I have an incredible ability to compartmentalize. That it's almost like could be conceived dangerous, where I like really maybe I'm not present in certain situations, or I really remove myself from some situations that are where I shouldn't be, and I'm able to compartmentalize a lot of things in my life. And I think that that's just a skill that I have, that I'm able to, that pushed me into like not care, like being in situations and not taking it home with me, and not letting it affect me. Different friendships, different, like being at home, being at work, all these different things. I'm just able to compartmentalize very, very well.
But do you think you're avoidant?
No, definitely not.
So you still digest the information.
Yeah.
You just do it when you're ready to do it.
I'll digest information. I just won't let it affect me. Because like ultimately, like how people's opinions are people's opinions. It's not like
they always have this saying.
It's not this one thing that I have to like live by.
And they also say, I've heard things like other people's opinions are not your business.
Yeah.
What they think of you is not your business.
Exactly.
Let's talk about barrier repair, because if your skin is angry, reactive, or constantly breaking out, your barrier is likely screaming for help. A damaged barrier shows up as redness, tightness, sensitivity, or products that suddenly stop working. Alliston's Restorative Skin Complex is the product we reach for when skin needs a true reset. It uses patented Trihex technology to clear out old damaged collagen and help the skin rebuild stronger, healthier from the inside out. This isn't just about soothing, it's restorative. If your skin just isn't behaving, this is where we start. Use Skin Talks 15 at beskinenvie.ca. That is beskinenvie.ca for 15% off your first order. But the thing is, people tend to have thoughts about stuff. So you've been able to block that out at a very young age.
Yeah.
Not that you're young, but like you are young in the big picture of things. You're in the first part of your life, right?
If I compared, probably also if I compare to you and me, like probably seeing you not being able to do it probably pushed me more to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I don't want to be like that. That's what we do. We grow up and we're like, I don't want to do the things that I saw my parents do.
Yeah, because I would see like you see things that would like, we even have conversations about it now. I see things that would affect you and like stick with you for a long time. I'm like, but who cares? You know, I'm like, just get over it.
Yeah.
Like just move on.
But I know for me, my process is I have to digest it. I have to let it go through my body completely before I understand it.
Yeah, me, I just like don't even let it go through. I'm like, I repel.
But what
I
about things like self-reflection? Like self-reflection, do you ever...
I question myself all the time.
How you're handling situations and where's your barometer with that? Like, how do you decide what you...
Well, if I know that I'm like, if let's say I hurt somebody's feeling, or if I was wrong in an argument, like I'll definitely like own up to it. Like even if I talk about like with my boyfriend or whatever, like I'm right 99.9% of the time. But when I'm not right, no, I'm just kidding. When I'm not right, like I have no problem owning up to it, which I think when I was younger, I had a harder time doing. But I think just like certain relationships that I've had, certain experiences that I've had have like taught me to like, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to finally talk about how you feel. That's also one thing that I struggled with, and I get that from you, was like not being open and not communicating, being afraid of the outcome. And one person had taught me to communicate very well. And now I'm like the best communicator ever. I'll talk about things that bother me all the time. Like I just don't care. And it's like free. It's free.
Well, it's good because it gets
Which I
it
tell
out
you to
into
do
your
all
system.
the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have to communicate. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right.
You're
But
not gonna like
it's
your
also
answer?
a skill set to learn how to communicate in a way, because what's very important to me is like communication is often, when I see it, is often people will say, you did this to me and you did this to me and you did this to me. So if it's reframing it into when this happened, this is how it made me feel. It's got nothing to do with pointing a finger or blaming somebody else, because that's
if you're gonna blame your finger and be like, you spoke to me like in this way, it's you're making that person automatically defensive,
right?
So you're not gonna get a good conversation out of somebody.
So when you said this to me, this is how it made me feel. Reframing it in a way where the conversation is less blaming.
Yeah.
And more...
But that's what our therapist told us.
Yeah, I know. I learned that too. I didn't know that when I was younger. Definitely didn't, because it's not what I learned. Yeah. It wasn't the style of communication, I guess, within my family. It must have been within my family.
It definitely is coming from, it definitely comes from our family that we don't communicate about things, and certain subjects are taboo. And like, I've just... with therapy, have been taught that it's not really that deep. And like, for example, like if you're like a subject that's taboo, like whatever it might be, if you just like bring it up to somebody and like, you're going to see that the result was positive, because like most likely the result will be positive at the end. You'll feel 100 times better yourself. It's always going to be worth it just to bring it up and just to talk about it.
Right. But I find that's... So always, you have to look at the barometer also of who you're talking to, because there's been times in my life where I have started those kinds of conversations and I can see the lights go out. The lights go out. They're not...
But that's not on you.
No, it's not. But communication is a two-way street. If you want to have a conversation with somebody about something, you have to be able to converse back and forth.
So if you're saying that like you're opening conversation with somebody and they're not reciprocating.
Well, I can see the lights are out. Like I can see them, oh, you want to talk about that? And it's like, no, let's cook. or let's do like completely shift the gears so that they're just not ready to have that conversation.
Which I think is fine.
It's fine, but
and then I think like you would just, if that were to happen to me, that person's like deflecting or like
you can see it
not
then.
answering like proper, like avoiding the questions, like that's an answer to yourself.
It is, but it's also, I look at it as people that just aren't ready to talk about stuff that are uncomfortable conversations. But I think like more and more these uncomfortable conversations, even with yourself, because I think that's also part of self-care, an uncomfortable conversation with yourself doesn't mean that you're talking badly to yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not loving yourself. To challenge the way that you think and to challenge. You know, I remember Anna, who was our therapist, used to say, I would blurt out something about that I thought about myself. And she'd say to me, well, what proof do you have of that? Like, what proof do you have that you've actually done that? Tell me what. And I couldn't. And she says, well, why are you thinking it?
Because you spiral.
Because it's just, it's negative. And it's like
but it comes from one thought and then you
one spiral
snowman,
and I don't think I'm alone in it. I think it's common, right? And I think that if we can work on ourselves in this manner to be more loving and more caring and more kind in how we talk about ourselves, and to like distance ourselves from what we've learned in the past somehow.
Yeah, you just have to like being more present. And like one thing that I've learned, let's say for example, self-talk, is that like within my pregnancy, I've always struggled with body image, which is totally normal within a woman. We like, it's just it's a woman who doesn't like, I want to meet you, like, let's be friends and teach me your ways, to not have body image issues, right? Because that's just who we are at this point. That's how society sees us. And my body changing throughout pregnancy and gaining weight and all this stuff was a shock to myself. And then I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh my God, like this is like happening to me. Like I look so different. And then reframing my mindset negatively to be like, I need this in order to grow my baby. Like, it's just like my body's doing what it needs to do in order to grow this child, right? Like I need to have thicker thighs or a fatter ass, you know, so that I can support my big baby, because I have a bigger baby. Maybe if I was smaller, I would have more back pain or this or that. So it's like taking like little snippets of my negative self-talk and rewording it into like something more positive. And that goes for anything, whether it's like whatever negative self-talk you have, like catching yourself in that moment and then just switching a word. Like whether it could be so simple, but just like switching a word and just finding out why this is happening, you know, and just like not being so negative about it. And then now that I've rewired the way that I think in terms of like how I see myself pregnant, 8 months pregnant, it's much different versus how it was when I was 5 months pregnant and like starting to put on some weight and seeing my body change.
Yeah. Yeah. And where I look at you and I think about back when I was pregnant with you, I mean, that was not part of the conversation. It was like, it was very negative. The way society saw women that were pregnant at that time, and it was not a positive thing. So like you didn't see women walking around with literally in bags of clothing.
Yeah, you know, it's not something you would show off, which I love now that
I love it.
Show. I kind of wish that I was pregnant in the summer, because then I would show I'm not going to walk around in a crop top and minus 20 degrees weather.
You feel beautiful in your body.
Yeah, but I like wish I could show it off more in a way, because it's such a beautiful thing.
It is beautiful. And for me as your mom to watch you going through your pregnancy and growing and this child, first of all, which I adore already. It's not even here, but I adore it. I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life is watching you.
Yeah, it's definitely
your body change and this beautiful bump that you have. And then I compare it back to my days where it was like, I wanted to hide the bump. I wanted to not let people know I was pregnant. I was ashamed of the weight that I gained, but it was also verbalized to me.
Yeah, it's a very different.
It was verbalized to me that, you've gained some weight. You're walking like you're pregnant. Oh, you're, better get that weight off. Otherwise this, that, and the other. Like, it was really not positive talk. I don't know if every woman has gone through those types of experiences. I mean, I'm in my mid 50s. If other women of my same age had those things, or if it's just the people that were in my life at that time. But it wasn't good, you know? So I love the fact that you've been able to twist the narrative around this, you know, what's your body's going through, to be able to appreciate your body, to be able to, and be grateful for your body, to be able to grow this baby.
Yeah.
Like, it's an incredible thing, right?
Yeah. And talking to other moms and like getting their input on it too. Like, it's just, there's much more of a community, I think, nowadays, or in the past couple of years. I mean, I don't know, I'm only pregnant now, versus 15, 20 years ago. Like, the community of moms and on social media and like all these things is so much more supportive. And there's so much more information around it. And, you know, like, even the conversation, I see so many posts where the conversation is like, you've put on 35 pounds, but here's how much you've actually put on in terms of like water retention, blood flow, placenta, amniotic fluid, baby. Like, you know, like, okay, yes, you put on 40 pounds, but like 20 pounds of that is just baby. Yeah. And the other rest of it is like water retention and this and this and this, you know, like, so
most people bounce back, but
that's
within reason.
That was never talked about. It's like when a woman puts on between 25 and 60 pounds during pregnancy, that back in the day was automatically assumed that it was just like weight and fat. Yeah. Right? Rather than like you actually growing a human being. Yeah. Which is crazy. Yeah. So now, like, crazy. There's so much more information around it. That's just very helpful as well when you're going through it.
And there's a lot of support groups and stuff like that. I think women in the past were very isolated, talking about your feelings and what you were going through in relation to your body, your menstrual cycle, your breasts, your hormones, all of that stuff was not spoken about. Yeah. Even your sexuality was not spoken about. A woman's pleasure was a subject of taboo. It was more always male dominated in the conversations at the time, you know?
For sure.
If you look back at my grandmother and my mother's days, and probably well before that, I'm sure there was a time, and I know that there's cultures where women's sexuality and stuff is celebrated and appreciated. It's not feared, you know? I just feel like in today's world, there's so much coming up to the surface where women are concerned, and also men. I mean, there's been recently a book, I can't remember what his name is. It's Kara Swiffer and Scott Galloway from, they have a podcast called, I'm thinking, it's called Pivot. And he just wrote a book about men, and the struggles that men are going through today is insane. I actually want to read the book, but everything's bubbling up to the surface now. And somehow I think that this information overload, a combination of social pressures and also maybe even AI at this point, has brought up a lot of conversation awareness around how we're thinking. And also just the confusion and chaos about what's going on in our world in terms of environment and politics and wars and hate and fear and all of this kind of stuff. So everything's being brought to the surface, and people are trying to find answers, and they're questioning a lot of things. So I think having conversations around loving yourself is really, really important, because, you know, you have to, if you ever want to be able to love outside of yourself. I think it's
yeah. And you ever see these videos on Instagram where it's like these little girls, like the mom is doing their hair and they're in the mirror looking at this, I am beautiful, I am, yes. Like, it's so sweet. And I feel like we do that with these young little girls and young little boys too.
Positive affirmations.
Do the positive affirmation to instill this positivity in their self-worth and all of that. But like, we forget to do that also as adults.
Well, it's very easy to give advice to others, but it's very difficult to take our own, right? So it's easy for us to say, you should do this, or, you know, these are things that could be done to make you feel better in your skin entirely, meaning, and but to apply it to our own lives is very different. You know, gratitude, for example, you should journal, or why don't you do this, or why don't you do that? But you don't do it yourself. Yeah. So giving advice and taking your own advice is two very different things. But I will say that I really am trying to do that in this point in my life now. Like, when I was growing up, I was very afraid of getting older, you know, used to talk about body changes in your age at 30, having a child. Well, when you are a woman or a man and you're getting into your 40s, then all of a sudden, whoop, you get into, you know, menopause season of your life. It's not a subject that was talked about. It was, again, women silently
Taboo, yeah.
suffering around that. So I knew that that was coming. And in a way, we're in a bit of a denial about it. But there's the things that happen to you when you go through that stage of your life. And instead of looking at things like, you know, criticizing the stuff that's going on with the changes of your body, and that could be like skin texture, tone, dryness, a lot of different things, wrinkles, lack of firmness, and all that type of stuff, spots, you know, body on your body and face. And instead of, you know, where my head originally goes to, oh God, look at that. I'm like, oh God, look at that. But I try to say, well, I love that.
Yeah.
I really try to do that now. I try to, every time I'm getting dressed in the morning or every time I'm getting ready to go out for my day, I look in the mirror and I'm like, you look fabulous today. I really make a conscious effort to feel good about, and also to take the time to, and make sure that I am taking care of myself so that I can say, so I can kind of celebrate what I've done. You know, like, you know, there's this girl on Instagram, her name is Carolyn, and she's in her 50s. She's American, and she has this get up, get dressed, feel
Yeah,
good.
she's great.
She's like got tons of bling and she's over the top, but she's become a celebrity overnight almost because of her positive affirmations about get up, get dressed, dress for your day, feel good in your skin, love what you're wearing. It doesn't mean you have to spend tons of money on your clothing, but put a great outfit on, do your hair,
something that
do
makes
your
you
makeup,
feel good, yeah.
and make yourself feel good because you are worth it.
Yeah.
You're worth
And then
showing up.
naturally, I feel like when you like look better,
You feel
better,
better.
you
Oh,
radiate more energy,
100%.
and then therefore you look better. You know, like it's like a full cycle. Like if you're gonna look better, you're gonna feel better. You're gonna look better, you're gonna feel better. Like you just radiate a really positive energy, which I think is
And
like
people feel it because I feel we are energy, right? If somebody's
We are.
down in the dumps and not feeling good and feeling very insecure, and it's almost like the body language goes into that position. Even if they're wearing a nice outfit, the look on their face. I noticed a difference on myself even because there was a time where I just didn't feel good about anything. So I didn't attract. But now I feel so great in my body. I've taken care of things in my life. I've worked on myself. So when I go out into the world and I show up, I'm very happy to chat with people and to ask them how their day's going. And I engage way differently than I did when I was feeling lousy. But the bottom line is that if you're not feeling well, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that don't feel well.
just try to like take little moments to self-assess and
ask yourself why.
yeah. And
I
just,
think
and
asking
also one thing is like the journaling thing, which
made a big difference for me.
I don't even journal, but there was a moment when I did. Like feeling in the moment, like how you're feeling, and writing it on a piece of paper almost removes you from that. Like it separates that feeling from yourself because you've put it on a piece of paper.
Well, you've digested it out of you.
Yeah. So you almost don't associate with that feeling anymore. And it like can help you move forward with something else. Or even if you're like experiencing an issue, or not just like how you're feeling, but like something happens at work or something happens with your partner or something, like you feel a certain type of way, because if you put it on a piece of paper, like you've put it out there, and then you almost don't feel it anymore because it's like,
well, you've released yourself from
and
the
then
emotion
you read it
attached.
later.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like that was nothing. Like that was just whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So not associating yourself with all of those negative feelings all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I think gratitude, again, it's a big thing. It's a hot topic right now. Everybody's talking about it. But gratitude, for me, practicing gratitude, I listened to a podcast this week, again, that was talking about journaling and writing things down and all that kind of stuff. But there was this doctor that was being interviewed. And basically, she said that when she wakes up in the morning, before she even gets out of bed, she will have gratitude for her bed, her sheets, her pillows. She'll snuggle up, grateful for the warmth around her. Like she starts her day acknowledging all the beautiful things that she's feeling as she opens her eyes and is welcoming the new day. And I've tried to do that. I've tried to do it at night also. And again, everything's a practice, right? But once you practice and you start to implement these things into your life, they make a difference. You know, to put your head down on the pillow at night and say, oh, you know, I love my pillow. I'm grateful for my pillow, and I'm grateful for the day that I had, even though I had some moments of anxiety, even though this and that happened. Is just I'm alive, my heart's beating. I'm grateful for my
They have this
health,
thing, the
like
5-minute journal, that like helps people remember to do
focusing.
it, because
Yeah,
going to bed after like a long day and like remembering to do that can be hard. You have
it's
to create
hard.
that habit. But they have the 5-minute journal that like went crazy. I think it was after
I
COVID,
used
or
it for a while.
me
I
too. I
used it.
finished
Not
one.
consistent. I didn't do it
But
consistently,
it
but I
reminds
did.
you, like, when you're in bed, like, what were you grateful about? Like, what were some moments today that you're grateful about? And in the morning you do it. Like, it's very good. And your days are always so busy and so much is going on. And then if you go to bed being like, oh my God, that was such an intense day, but you take a moment to realize actually like there was a good moment, that can shift the way that you think about your day.
It does.
It reminds you.
And even the things that are uncomfortable during your day, like even the difficult conversations, or even the moments where peaking in stress and something bad happens, what we would normally perceive to be bad or challenging, also being grateful for that, because those things that happen to you, they teach you so much, Like, I think you and I have had conversations recently about, not everything goes always the way we plan, right? But ultimately, acknowledging that it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, or the intention around it. However, we're grateful for it, because what it did was it taught us a lesson, and that we know that we have to make a shift. So even the things that are challenging and difficult, the conversations, the experiences, the interactions, the conflicts, whatever it may be, the fights, to be grateful for that as well. And when you shift into that mindset, everything starts to change in the way that you see yourself and your life. I think it's a big thing. And I know it's easier said than done, but starting with baby steps in little things, and, ultimately investing into yourself. I always say that because, like we talked about in the beginning, the things that I did over the last 5 or 6 years, I invested into my well-being big time.
Yeah.
To the
Return on investment is
I am not in the same,
tenfold.
well, I'm not in the same spot that I was, not even close
Yeah.
to where I was when I was 50 years old. I'll never forget it. July 4th, 2019 is like my entire world exploded.
Yeah.
And it was the loss and grief that I've never felt about anything before in my life. And today, I can look back at that time and
Be
all that
grateful for it.
happened. Oh, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God it happened to me. Thank God. Where at the time, I thought my life was falling apart and I'd never recover. I thought I would die from the pain of what I was going through. But in today, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So anyways, we started this podcast about February being the month of acknowledging love and self-love, self-care. And I think that, taking the time to maybe write down all the great things and then build on that every single day.
Yeah. I actually was listening to this podcast with Mel Robbins, and it was more of a podcast about like the end of the year and how to reflect on your end of your year. And what she does is that she'll go through every single month of the year and then also go through her photo album and then reassess, like, January was a really shit month because like
This
I didn't go
happened.
outside as much or
Yeah.
whatever. And then February was amazing. Like, I saw my friends so much. I went out for dinner all the time and I took pictures. March, blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of like, in not a whole year's scheme, like don't do it for the full year, but like maybe every single week or every single day, like just being like, oh, like this is what happened, this was amazing, and acknowledging when it wasn't great, and then like just making sure that you're still
You're
kind
checking
in and like being present in those moments and realizing like ultimately throughout the last month I had a really good month, even though I think that I didn't feel like I did. So that was a really cool thing that I listened to what she does. It was more of like an end of year going into the new year vibe, but you can do that on a day-to-day basis if you're struggling, or do that on the month-to-month basis, whatever it is.
I
Just to
remember, you reminded me of something, because I think it was 2020 or 2021. I bought this big, huge jar. I saw something on Instagram probably, and I bought this big, huge glass jar. And then every day what I did was I had these
remember this.
pieces of paper, and every day I would write in something that great, what happened that day that I thought to be great, even if it was a tough day. Like, I had a great conversation with my mom, or whatever it may be. And you cut the pieces of paper and then you fold them up and you put them in your memory jar. And it's always everyday things that happen that were good. And then you can go back to all the notes in the memory jar and pull them all out. And it reminds you of all the things that happened in your past that were wonderful moments. And it makes you again go into a place like of gratitude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And not focusing on the negative all the time, which is so easy to focus on the negative. You always will.
But it's retraining your brain. And what the good news is if you acknowledge the fact that you're in a state right now, the good news is with practice, persistence, patience, and time, you can actually reprogram the way you think about yourself and your life, but you need to make the effort.
Yeah. And also like, remember that nothing lasts forever.
No, it doesn't. But if you set intentions to do that and to continue that journey, you fast forward 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you will not be in the same spot that you are today.
No, you'll be in a better one. That's the intention too, right? Yeah.
You can change your trajectory basically by how you think. You know, and who you surround yourself with is a big deal. We often talk about people that suck the life out of us. You know, we love them, we spend time with them, and we walk away completely exhausted. Identifying those things that happen and why they happen also. There's a very interesting podcast that Jay Shetty had. It says that people are either a mirror. If anybody's listening to, whoever's listening today should look this up on the Jay Shetty podcast. And it's people are a mirror, a window, or a door. And I won't go into it, but it's a very interesting perspective. Sometimes the people that irritate you the most are the ones that you need to, they're irritating you so much because they are actually pointing out something that you need to work on. So like, it's very interesting. The thing is just to question all of it.
Definitely.
And to dig into it and to explore, because there's always hope in all of that at the end of the day. Yeah. All right. So
I hope you enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a different twist, away from skincare and more about self-care.
Yeah, which I think is very important. So we hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Skin Talks.
If this episode inspired you, taught you something new, or just made you feel seen, please share with someone you love. And if you believe in thoughtful and empowering conversations that help you make better choices for yourself around your beauty and wellness, please rate and review the show. It helps us to grow our community, and we deeply appreciate it. Because this isn't just about skin.
It's about claiming your beauty, feeling strong, informed, and at home in yourself.
See you next week.